This is First News on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF. Here's Bob Joseph.
Good morning. The forecast from News Radio WNBF. Cloudy today, some showers and thunderstorms likely, the high 74. An Endicott man who was taken into custody by the FBI in a pre-dawn raid at his Northside residence will be heading to prison soon for threatening Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. 51-year-old Joseph Morelli has been sentenced in Syracuse federal court to serve 3 months in prison for telephone threats he made to Greene's office in Washington. FBI agents led a large contingent of heavily armed law enforcement officers who surrendered Morelli's Oak Hill Avenue apartment early on St. Patrick's Day, 2022. Authorities said Morelli was taken into custody without incident. He had been accused of transmitting threatening interstate communications. According to an affidavit, Morelli left 7 threatening voicemail messages for Taylor Greene at her D.C. congressional office on March 3rd and 4th of last year. Calls were said to have been made from a phone in Morelli's apartment in Endicott. In one message, Morelli is alleged to have identified himself and provided his phone number before stating, "You've got a big bleeping mouth, and I'm going to show you what violence is really about." He also made other threats, according to federal officials. In one voicemail, the caller said, "I just don't think I can go on letting you, cause hatred and poison to people." The chief U.S. District Judge, Brenda Sands, sentenced Morelli. He was ordered to serve a 3-year term of supervised release when he completes his prison sentence. Restitution issues are to be settled in the next 90 days. Morelli's been directed to surrender to prison on October 2nd after he entered his guilty plea earlier this year. Prosecutors said he could face a 5-year prison term and a fine of $250,000. Cost of your digital newspaper subscription is going up. Press and Sun Bulletin readers who rely on the digital platform are being hit with a substantial price increase. The Binghamton Gannett outlet has been advising Press Connect subscribers who've been paying $12.99 a month that the rate will go up by $7. Subject line in the email sent to customers doesn't say anything about a price hike. It just reads, "Your digital subscription update." One longtime Press and Sun Bulletin reader who had recently discontinued receiving the print edition of the paper because it lacked timely news content said he was shocked by the 53% increase in the digital subscription fee. Even with the new monthly fee of $19.99, the digital option will provide a significant savings over the current cost of the home-delivered print edition. Some of those customers now are shelling out more than $43 a month. Single copy prices of the Press and Sun Bulletin have been increased dramatically in recent years. Sunday print newspaper now costs $4.50 at the store. The daily paper is $3.50. In an earnings call this month, Gannett CEO Mike Reed told investors the company's current focus is on digital revenue growth and strengthening our balance sheet. Reed indicated Gannett now has a heightened focus on profitability and the amount of revenue it can obtain per subscriber. And that's why the rates are going up. Village of Johnson City's new municipal office complex is operational. Village departments have been moved from a former bank building at 243 Main Street to a site at 60 Lester Avenue. The complex had been home to Country Valley Industries for decades. Mayor Martin Maney told WNBF News the process of relocating government offices started early this month. Most of the move was accomplished last week when the offices were closed at the old site. Mayor said the village employees are continuing to get things set up in the new building. Well, Johnson City departments now are operating at the Lester Avenue site. Maney said some small punch list stuff still has to be completed. One thing is the new boardroom isn't open yet. The mayor said some equipment, including electronic gear, still must be installed. He said next month's village board meeting will be held in the new building. Governor Kathy Hochul is imploring President Biden to take action to help the state absorb a surge of international migrants who have strained resources and filled homeless shelters. In a rare public address, Hochul said she had sent the president a letter asking him to expedite work permits for migrants and provide financial resources to help care for the estimated 100,000 asylum seekers who have come to New York State over the past year. The governor said the reality is that we've managed thus far without substantive support from Washington, and despite the fact that this is a national and indeed an inherently federal issue. The public plea came after months of private requests to the White House. The key request of Hochul's letter is for the president to speed up the bureaucratic process under which migrants can obtain work permits and earn enough money to get off public assistance. She said, in remarks directed to the White House, let them work. Now the forecast from the National Weather Service, cloudy today with some showers and thunderstorms, high 74. Mostly cloudy tonight, chance of showers and thunderstorms, low 63. Partly sunny tomorrow with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon, high 77. And Sunday should be sunny, high 75. Right now it's 64 in downtown Binghamton at 6:10. I'm Bob Joseph. WNBF News.
1290 WNBF.
And this is the Friday edition of First News Binghamton. Welcome to the final day of the work week for most people. Although some people are now working a 1 or 2 day work week, so perhaps you already have started your weekend. For the rest of us, though, we'll do our jobs and then look forward to relaxing for the next couple of days. This morning, we'll give you a briefing of what's going on around here. A lot, of course, is going on around here in the Binghamton area, around New York and Pennsylvania, and around the U.S. and around the world. We'll have all the latest information from the WNBF News Center and ABC News. Coming up, look at sports. A fascinating Binghamton Rumble Ponies game in Manchester, New Hampshire. We'll have that story coming up. Also, the Yankees played another game against the Washington Nationals. We'll tell you how that went. We can tell you that the Mets didn't win on Thursday. On the other hand, they didn't lose on Thursday because they had Thursday off. They'll start their series in Queens against the Angels at 7:10 tonight. So there's a little overview of what's ahead from a sports standpoint. Also coming up on the Friday edition of First News Binghamton, we'll have some money news from ABC's Jim Ryan. Dr. Sanjay Gupta with A Better Life. Although he says summer is almost over, you still ought to work to protect your skin. And then later this hour, in her Friday Tech Update, Kim Commando talks about a big decision made by the management at Zoom. What it means for you and maybe the place where you work. It'll be coming up on our program today. I'm Bob Joseph in for Don Morgan. By the way, in case you haven't noticed, this week, and this week only, the talk show starts after the 10 o'clock news. Some people have said, gee, Raj, where's the talk show? I tune in after the 9 o'clock news and we don't hear the local talk show. Don't worry, it's just this week for fulfill the operational requirements. I think that's how it's described. So the talk show today will be on from 10 to noon. We'll be taking your phone calls. Gee, I have no idea what we'll be talking about. And yet I'm sure it'll be interesting. The Friday edition of your local talk program right here on News Radio. WNBF News Time, 6:13.
From the Galt Auto Studios, this is WNBF News Radio AM 1290. Also available at 92.1 FM. We're still saving the Southern Tier money at Galt Toyota.
So it starts recording?
6:14 at WNBF. We'll check sports in a minute. By the way, for the news you might not be able to get elsewhere, certainly the news you won't get as quickly elsewhere, check out our website, WNBF.com, with more details on some of the stories we just reported, including more background into that case where a man who lived in the Little Italy section of Endicott wound up being arrested by the FBI in an early morning raid. Well, he's now been sentenced to prison. We have more details about what that case involved. Also, higher prices for your digital newspaper subscription, 53% price hike being reported by Press Connect subscribers. We've got details on that and more. It's all on our website. News Radio WNBF, bringing you the information at WNBF.com. 6:15, time for sports. The Rumble Ponies scored 4 runs in the 9th inning to pull out a come-from-behind 7-6 win over the Fisher Cats in Manchester, New Hampshire. The Rumble Ponies now have taken the first games of the 6-game series. Down 6-3 with 1 out in the 9th, Agustin Ruiz blasted a home run to right off Juan Nunez to cut the Ponies' deficit to 6-4. After Matt O'Neill walked, Jalen Palmer smashed a double to left center field to drive in O'Neill and make it 6-5. After Troy Watson replaced Nunez, Luis Angel Acuna reached on an infield single with Palmer advancing to third. With runners on the corners and 1 out, Palmer scored on a sacrifice fly to left center field by Drew Gilbert to tie the game at 6, which also advanced Acuna to second with 2 out. The next batter, J.T. Schwartz, lined a go-ahead single to center field to bring home Acuna and give the Ponies a 7-6 lead. Tyler Thomas would close the door in the 9th as Will Robertson lined out to Mateo Gil at third to end the game. Thomas is 4 for 4 in save opportunities this year. The Rumble Ponies had trailed 6-1 after the Fisher Cats scored 6 runs in the 5th inning, highlighted by a Damiano Palmigiani grand slam. Anyway, we could tell you more, but you have the essence of it. It was an incredible come-from-behind win for the Rumble Ponies against the Fisher Cats. So congratulations to Binghamton. Suddenly, they almost seem unbeatable, winning the first 3 of their scheduled 6 games in Manchester. Next contest will be tonight, and WNBF coverage will begin at 6:50. with Jacob Wilkins. It's still one of those games you probably wish you were there. And I'm sure the fans in Manchester weren't thrilled. Fortunately, for Binghamton fans, we've seen some late game comebacks by opposing teams here in Binghamton this season, and it's tough. It's tough when you think you've got the game won, and then the opponents suddenly do something remarkable in the 8th or 9th innings. So that's the way the ball bounces. Meanwhile, in the Bronx,
Tommy Canely fires. And a swing and a long drive right field. Abrams has done it again. This one is long gone. Abrams stands and admires at home plate and is just now making his way to first base as the Nationals go back-to-back and lead 5-3.
Oh, there you go. That was the call on WJFK. C.J. Abrams hit the solo home run to give the Nationals a 5-3 lead over the Yankees. In the top of the 7th, Washington went on to win 6-5. Mets were off last night. They'll be back in action tonight at home in Queens, hosting the Angels with a scheduled first pitch of 7:05. That's the latest in sports from News Radio, WNBF News Time, 6:19. Coming up, Money News. 6:20, time for Money News with ABC's Jim Ryan.
The major stock indexes began Thursday in the green, but by closing time, they'd fallen into a deep sell-off. The Dow Jones lost 373 points to finish just above 34,000, 1,500 points below its close on July 31st. The S&P 500 gave up 1.35% yesterday. The Nasdaq slid nearly 2%. Mortgage rates reached a 2-decade high this week. Freddie Mac reported that the average 30-year fixed came with an interest rate of 7.23%. Those higher rates are making it harder for the housing market to pull out of its current slowdown. The Mortgage Bankers Association reports that loan applications are at their lowest since 1995. In a week of dreadful news about the state of retail, Nordstrom has beaten Wall Street's quarterly sales and earnings expectations. Despite that, the high-end department store chain is sticking to its predictions. Nordstrom expects that its revenue will fall 4 to 6% in the coming months. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
And looking at Wall Street futures at the moment, Dow futures are up 91, NASDAQ futures are up 17. WNBF News Time, 6:21, coming up. Dr. Sanjay Gupta with A Better Life on First News Binghamton. This is WNBF.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
6:23 on a Friday morning at WNBF and WNBF.com. Let's try to think some healthy thoughts now with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
It's hard to believe, but summer is almost over. But don't let your guard down. You still need to protect your skin. And to that end, I want to tell you about a new report by the Environmental Working Group, which found only 25% of sunscreens on the market offer good broad-spectrum protection without troublesome chemical ingredients. Now, EWG tested more than 1,700 sunscreens, and you can see how they ranked on their website. But here's the general advice. Look for a sunscreen that offers broad-spectrum protection. That means against UVA and UVB rays. You want an SPF, that means sun protection factor, of at least 30. But don't waste your money on anything over 50. Mineral sunscreens have come a long way. Many of them no longer leave that white chalky residue on the skin anymore. And they make a point of saying those are also better for the environment. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
Wake up, people. You are optimizing every waking hour of your life. From carpooling kids, to work, to friends, and everything in between. You have to get sleep. And a bed that can perform as well as you do. Meet the next generation Sleep Number Smart Bed. It effortlessly adjusts to your shape, position, and movements. Learning how you sleep, so you learn to sleep better. Night after night. Sleep next level. Only from Sleep Number.
It's the biggest sale of the year. Save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed. Plus special financing. Ends Monday. See store for details.
Jim Gaffigan here with some more Straight Talk. Let's take a moment to appreciate our sweet children, loving grandparents, and eternal soulmates. Now let's use them to save money on wireless. Because with the Straight Talk Silver Plan, you get 4 lines for just $25 a month with unlimited data and no contracts. So add those human loved ones, and save money. Thanks, kids. They're finally worth it. Straight Talk Wireless, available at Walmart.
Get 4 lines on Silver Unlimited for $25 per line per month, plus taxes and fees. For data management practices and additional terms, visit straighttalk.com.
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta every weekday morning right here on News Radio, WNBF 626. We're looking at some showers today, maybe some more thunderstorms too. Hope you enjoyed the noisy production that most of us probably heard this morning. Some people may have slept through it. I, on the other hand, didn't sleep through it, and the dogs certainly didn't appreciate all the thunder and lightning. Anyway, today a little bit more stormy weather, high 74. Tonight a few more showers and thunderstorms with a low of 63. Tomorrow, partly sunny, chance of showers and thunderstorms, high 77. Right now it's 65 in downtown Binghamton. That's 18 Celsius at the Big N. Bob Joseph. Oh, Celsius. We thought it would catch on. It never did. Coming up, entertainment news here on a Friday morning. You're listening to First News Binghamton, WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com.
News Radio 1290
entertainment news.
Gran Turismo races into theaters this weekend.
If you miss a line in the game, you reset. You miss it on the track, you could die.
The movie not based on the popular video game. Rather, it tells the true story of a player who was so good at the game, he was able to translate his on-screen skills to the real-life racetrack. David Harbour co-stars telling me he knows much more about video games than cars.
Put me in a world with orcs and magic users and fighters, and I love a nice RPG.
Gran Turismo is expected to battle Barbie for the top spot at the box office this weekend. New streaming today on Hulu, it's the comedy Vacation Friends 2 starring John Cena, Yvonne Orji, and Little Rel Howery. And on Netflix, Adam Sandler and his daughters star in the coming-of-age comedy You Are So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah.
It's breathtaking.
Dune 2, moving from November to next March because of the Hollywood strikes. And actress and entrepreneur Blake Lively is 36 today. Jason Nathanson, ABC News, Hollywood.
Happy birthday to everyone who is celebrating. And not just today, if you have a birthday Saturday or Sunday, happy birthday, since I'm not sure I'll be able to wish it to you on the radio over the weekend. WNBF News Time, 6:29.
WNBF Binghamton.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF. Here's Bob Joseph.
Good morning. It's 65 in downtown Binghamton. The forecast from News Radio WNBF. Cloudy today, showers and thunderstorms, high 74. For the first time in American history, a former president has been captured in a mugshot. It's on all the front pages of U.S. newspapers today and newspapers around the world. Authorities in Georgia released the police booking photo of Donald Trump appearing defiant after he was processed at the Fulton County Jail on charges related to alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. We get more from ABC's Justin Finch in Atlanta.
Boarding his plane back to New Jersey, Trump defended himself, claiming he had the right to challenge the results of an election he believed was dishonest.
I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election, and I should have every right to do that.
Trump and 18 others are charged with felony racketeering, accused of taking part in a criminal conspiracy.
Japan has started releasing treated radioactive wastewater from its tsunami-crippled Fukushima nuclear plant into the Pacific Ocean. That's prompted an outcry from neighboring countries. China has banned all Japanese seafood. National Geographic contributing writer Leslie Bloom spoke with ABC News about what's going on here.
We had a senior Chinese official recently call the releases a risk to all mankind and accused Japan of using the Pacific as, quote, a sewer. So the exchanges are getting testy.
WNBF News Time, 6:32. Governor Hochul has implored President Biden to take urgent action to help New York State absorb a surge of international migrants who have strained resources and filled homeless shelters. Hochul, in a public address, said she sent Biden a letter asking him to speed up work permits for migrants and provide financial resources to help care for the estimated 100,000 asylum seekers who have come to New York State over the past year. Endicott man will be heading to prison this fall. He had been taken into custody by the FBI in a pre-dawn raid at his Northside residence. He had been accused of threatening Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, 51-year-old Joseph Morelli has been sentenced in Syracuse federal court. 3 months in prison for telephone threats he made to Greene's office in Washington. FBI agents led a big contingent of heavily armed law enforcement officers who surrounded Morelli's Oak Hill Avenue apartment house in the Little Italy section of Endicott in March 2022. Authorities said Morelli was taken into custody without incident. He'd been accused of transmitting threatening interstate communications. Earlier this year, he entered a guilty plea. WNBF News Time, 6:33. Johnson City's new municipal office complex is in operation. The village departments have been moved into a new building, or actually it's an existing building that's been renovated at 60 Leicester Avenue. That complex had been home to Country Valley Industries for decades. In recent years, village offices were located in an old bank building at 243 Main Street. That building is going to be put up for sale. A judge has ordered new trials for two men convicted of killing a woman in 1993 inside her home near Buffalo, but who have always maintained their innocence. Additional DNA analysis and the fact that the original prosecutors withheld evidence that could have helped the defense means the convictions of Brian Lawrence and James Pugh should be overturned, according to the judge. However, Erie County State Supreme Court Justice Paul Whiteisek did not credit a sensational claim made during a re-examination of the case that the real killer was Richard Matt, a convicted murderer who escaped from a prison in 2015 and then was fatally shot by a federal agent. A 33-year-old nursing student, Deborah Mendel, had been stabbed dozens of times and strangled inside her home in Tonawanda. Her husband, who had a $50,000 life insurance policy on his wife and who was carrying on a relationship with a 17-year-old employee of a Taco Bell he managed, was initially a suspect in the killing, but he was never charged. He died in May. WNBF News Time, 6:35. Now, the forecast from the National Weather Service. Cloudy today. Showers and thunderstorms, high 74. Mostly cloudy tonight with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms, low 63. Partly sunny tomorrow with a chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly in the afternoon, high 77. Mostly sunny Sunday, high 75. Right now, 65 in downtown Binghamton. I'm Bob Joseph, WNBF News.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
6:37 WNBF with Bob Joseph in for Don Morgan on a Friday morning. And, of course, we've got First News Binghamton continuing till 9. And then you get 60 minutes free time to do as you please. Then you must return to WNBF at 10 o'clock to listen to our talk show. Actually, of course, it's optional. We hope you return, but if you have other things you must do, that's okay. But the talk show today is likely to be dominated with one specific national story, and all you have to do is go to your favorite newsstand to see the front page of the New York Post or the Daily News to know what we'll be talking about. It's one of the most stunning photos ever published in American newspapers. So go to your local newsstand and see what we're discussing. It's a front page I don't think most people ever thought they would see, and yet there it is. So we'll talk about that today from 10 to noon, as well as some local issues. We have some interesting local guests coming up, so I hope you join us. That'll be from 10 to noon today. Local talk, the way you like it, right here on WNBF. 6:39 coming up. We'll have a look at sports on this Friday morning. Also, money news and Kim Commando with her tech report today, focusing on a big decision by Zoom. So stay tuned. The information you need to start your day every weekday morning on WNBF's First News Binghamton.
WNBF.
6:42 at WNBF and WNBF.com. On St. Patrick's Day last year, I was on my way to the radio station, working early that day, minding my own business. And then I looked over and I saw off Watson Boulevard in Endicott police, lots and lots of police and armored equipment, military-style equipment, and police with weapons and in what appeared to be combat gear getting set for something. So it's still dark. Keep in mind, it's still dark, March 17th of 2022. So I'm thinking, well, I really have to be in Binghamton to be on First News Binghamton. But I really felt compelled to ask a few questions about what these guys were doing. Okay, it wasn't just guys, I think. There may have been some women too. But anyway, there's a large contingent of people up to something, law enforcement, in a situation I don't believe I'd ever seen before. So they were obviously getting set to do something. So as a good reporter, I decided to stop over and say hi. And a few of the people knew me. And of course, you can imagine the FBI and Endicott police and other law enforcement personnel. You can imagine how happy they were to see a reporter at that hour stopping by before they conducted some sort of secret operation. So I didn't have much time, but I did exchange pleasantries. And, the other thing is they said no pictures, which I thought was unfortunate. But anyway, there were no pictures permitted, they said. So ultimately what happened later that morning, a short time later, they went up to an apartment on Oak Hill Avenue in Endicott, and they took a guy into custody. And it turns out the man who was taken into custody is the man who was sentenced on Thursday in federal court in Syracuse for making threats to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. But anyway, that was one of the strangest things that I've encountered on my way to work. You don't expect to see police in combat gear getting ready to conduct some kind of raid, but hey, got to keep your eyes open. And then when you see something like that, you at least have to stop and ask a few questions. WNBF News Time, 6:45. That's time for sports.
Haley sets and pitches. Swing a high drive left center field.
And there you go. That's you almost get the sense we didn't hear the whole thing. Let's punch it up again. I think there was more to that call from WJFK.
Haley sets and pitches. Swing a high drive left center field and deep. Bader going back on the run to the warning track near the wall. Looks up and it's gone into the Nationals bullpen for Alex Call. And the Nationals lead 4-3.
Alex Call hitting a go-ahead 2-run homer in the 7th inning. C.J. Abrams followed with a solo shot, and the Washington Nationals beat the Yankees 6-5 to send New York to its 10th loss in 11 games. The day after his first career 3-homer game, Aaron Judge homered in his first pitch, or on the first pitch, from Patrick Corbin. Gleyber Torres hit a 2-run homer in the 3rd inning as the Yankees built a 3-1 lead. Last place New York has not won consecutive games since August 2nd and 3rd. So suffice it to say, some people who love baseball in the Bronx are unhappy this morning. Washington now has won 4 straight series in 9 of its last 12 games. Mets were idle last night. They will be in action tonight as they start their series against the Los Angeles Angels in Queens. What a comeback for the Rumble Ponies in Manchester. Binghamton scored 4 runs in the 9th inning to pull out a come-from-behind 7-6 win over the Fisher Cats. The Rumble Ponies have taken the first 3 games of the series. So at one point they were down 6-3 with 1 out in the 9th, but then things just went the right way for Binghamton, and they scored a bunch of runs. New Hampshire, yes, the Fisher Cats threatened in the bottom of the 9th, but in the end, the Rumble Ponies held on for that incredible comeback victory against New Hampshire. The teams play again tonight as the series continues, and WNBF coverage will start at 6:50 right here on News Radio WNBF with Jacob Wilkins. NFL news, Bills coach Sean McDermott opened training camp saying he had a timeline in mind of when he preferred having someone secure Buffalo's starting middle linebacker spot. Nearly a month later, the key defensive position is still unsettled, with Buffalo preparing to complete its preseason at Chicago tomorrow. Coincidentally, the Bills will face a Bears opponent featuring Tremaine Edmonds, who signed with Chicago in free agency this offseason after spending his first 5 NFL seasons as Buffalo's starting middle linebacker. It was initially supposed to be a 2-player competition between Terrell Bernard and Tyrel Dotson, has now expanded to feature A.J. Klein. And it's even included rookie Balin Spector getting extra snaps at the position, with Bernard having missed much of the past 3 weeks with a hamstring injury. McDermott sidestepped a question on whether he's behind schedule in announcing a starter by saying, "The important thing right now is where we're trying to go. I thought the middle linebackers had a good day in practice, but that's got to continue moving forward." All right. Obviously, we didn't have the audio, but that's a simulation of what it might have sounded like. That's the latest in sports from News Radio, WNBF News Time, 6:49. On this Friday morning, First News Binghamton, let's check business headlines. Asian shares are mostly falling, discouraged by a Wall Street slump that followed a blowout profit report from NVIDIA and mixed reports on the U.S. economy. Benchmark slipped in afternoon trading in Tokyo, Sydney, Seoul, Hong Kong, and Shanghai, and oil prices rose. Wall Street futures now are up. At the moment, Dow futures are up 108, NASDAQ futures are up 17. Heineken says it has completed its withdrawal from Russia 18 months after Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The company today announced the sale of its business in Russia for just €1. Heineken said it will incur a total loss of €300 million for the sale to the Russian manufacturing giant Ernest Group. Heineken had faced criticism for the slow pace of its exit in the wake of the outbreak of war, but insisted it was seeking to look after its local employees in Russia. Starting today, Europeans will see their online life change. People in the European Union can alter some of what shows up when they search, scroll, and share on the biggest social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as other tech giants like Google and Amazon. That's because big tech companies are now subject to a new set of EU digital regulations. The Digital Services Act aims to protect European users when it comes to privacy, transparency, and removal of harmful or illegal content. They can now turn off AI-recommended videos, know why a post was taken down, and report fake products. It's also going to be easier for those people in Europe to flag harmful content, and kids won't be targeted by digital ads. It's the latest money news on WNBF at 6:53. Time now for the Friday Tech Update with Kim Commando.
The tech company that transformed office work during the COVID emergency made a major decision this week about bringing its own workforce back into the office. If you're a manager or a business owner and you're struggling with the same decision, consider what the CEO of Zoom has to say. I'm Kim Commando, brought to you by SimpliSafe. Save 20% off a new security system with Fast Protect monitoring at simplysafekim.com. As of next week, all Zoom employees who live within 50 miles of the home office must clock in on site at least 3 days a week. Zoom CEO Eric Yuan says that Zoom was a great idea during the lockdown, but here in the post-COVID world, Zoom says that managing people remotely is, quoting now, really hard. When all employees are on a Zoom call, new ideas are not properly debated. Camaraderie has eroded because of isolation. And in the end, creativity suffers. So if you're making the big return to the office decision, thank Zoom for all the free research. Get tech smart every single day with my free newsletter at getkim.com. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates worth interviewing. Did you know every week nearly 50 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Kim. That's linkedin.com/Kim to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. linkedin.com/Kim.
Kim Commando with her tech updates weekday mornings here on First News Binghamton. Coming up in less than an hour at 7:53, ABC's Mike Dubosky will have tech trends today exploring AI Express. Well, we'll explore that with Mike Dubosky. I'm interested in finding out what that's about, and you and I will learn about it together. That's coming up in less than an hour right here on News Radio. WNBF News Time, 6:56.
Welcome.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
Good morning. It's 6:57. I'm Bob Joseph in for Don Morgan on First News Binghamton on your Friday. The Albany Times-Union today is reporting that Mavis Discount Tire will pay more than $2 million to settle a lawsuit filed by one of the victims of a limousine crash that killed 20 people. The repair chain settlement with Allison King's estate is the first agreement filed in state Supreme Court that discloses the dollar amount Mavis Discount Tire agreed to pay to resolve a lawsuit in the limo case going back to the crash that happened in Schoharie. This story is written by Larry Rulison from the Times-Union. You can see the whole story at timesunion.com. He reports that for months, Mavis has been in settlement talks with the estates of many victims of the crash, but the terms of the agreements have not been revealed, which is not unusual. A lot of secrecy surrounds cases like this. According to the Times-Union story, the families allege that Mavis botched brake work on the limo before the October 2018 crash. State police blamed catastrophic brake failure for the disaster. The limo crashed in the parking lot of the Apple Barrel Country Store. The settlement with the estate of King was revealed in court documents filed in Albany. A Mavis spokesperson could not be reached for comments. It's still tragic, and it's hard to believe. It's been nearly 5 years since that crash happened. I remember the first reports of that terrible, terrible crash that happened in 2018. WNBF News Time, 6:59.
This is News Radio 1290 AM, WNBF Binghamton. Now on 92.1 FM, W221 EJ Binghamton, a Town Square media station.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290, WNBF. Here's Bob Joseph.
Good morning. The forecast from News Radio WNBF. Cloudy today, some showers and thunderstorms likely, the high 74. An Endicott man who was taken into custody by the FBI in a pre-dawn raid at his Northside residence will be heading to prison soon for threatening Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. 51-year-old Joseph Morelli has been sentenced in Syracuse federal court to serve 3 months in prison for telephone threats he made to Greene's office in Washington. FBI agents led a large contingent of heavily armed law enforcement officers who surrendered Morelli's Oak Hill Avenue apartment early on St. Patrick's Day, 2022. Authorities said Morelli was taken into custody without incident. He had been accused of transmitting threatening interstate communications. According to an affidavit, Morelli left 7 threatening voicemail messages for Taylor Greene at her D.C. congressional office on March 3rd and 4th of last year. Calls were said to have been made from a phone in Morelli's apartment in Endicott. In one message, Morelli is alleged to have identified himself and provided his phone number before stating, "You've got a big bleeping mouth, and I'm going to show you what violence is really about." He also made other threats, according to federal officials. In one voicemail, the caller said, "I just don't think I can go on letting you, cause hatred and poison to people." The chief U.S. District Judge, Brenda Sands, sentenced Morelli. He was ordered to serve a 3-year term of supervised release when he completes his prison sentence. Restitution issues are to be settled in the next 90 days. Morelli's been directed to surrender to prison on October 2nd after he entered his guilty plea earlier this year. Prosecutors said he could face a 5-year prison term and a fine of $250,000. Cost of your digital newspaper subscription is going up. Press and Sun Bulletin readers who rely on the digital platform are being hit with a substantial price increase. The Binghamton Gannett outlet has been advising Press Connect subscribers who've been paying $12.99 a month that the rate will go up by $7. Subject line in the email sent to customers doesn't say anything about a price hike. It just reads, "Your digital subscription update." One longtime Press and Sun Bulletin reader who had recently discontinued receiving the print edition of the paper because it lacked timely news content said he was shocked by the 53% increase in the digital subscription fee. Even with the new monthly fee of $19.99, the digital option will provide a significant savings over the current cost of the home-delivered print edition. Some of those customers now are shelling out more than $43 a month. Single copy prices of the Press and Sun Bulletin have been increased dramatically in recent years. Sunday print newspaper now cost $4.50 at the store. The daily paper is $3.50. In an earnings call this month, Gannett CEO Mike Reed told investors the company's current focus is on digital revenue growth and strengthening our balance sheet. Reed indicated Gannett now has a heightened focus on profitability and the amount of revenue it can obtain per subscriber. And that's why the rates are going up. Village of Johnson City's new municipal office complex is operational. Village departments have been moved from a former bank building at 243 Main Street to a site at 60 Lester Avenue. The complex had been home to Country Valley Industries for decades. Mayor Martin Maney told WNBF News the process of relocating government offices started early this month. Most of the move was accomplished last week when the offices were closed at the old site. Mayor said the village employees are continuing to get things set up in the new building. Well, Johnson City departments now are operating at the Lester Avenue site. Maney said some small punch list stuff still has to be completed. One thing is the new boardroom isn't open yet. The mayor said some equipment, including electronic gear, still must be installed. He said next month's village board meeting will be held in the new building. Governor Kathy Hochul is imploring President Biden to take action to help the state absorb a surge of international migrants who have strained resources and filled homeless shelters. In a rare public address, Hochul said she had sent the president a letter asking him to expedite work permits for migrants and provide financial resources to help care for the estimated 100,000 asylum seekers who have come to New York State over the past year. The governor said the reality is that we've managed thus far without substantive support from Washington, and despite the fact that this is a national and indeed an inherently federal issue. The public plea came after months of private requests to the White House. The key request of Hochul's letter is for the president to speed up the bureaucratic process under which migrants can obtain work permits and earn enough money to get off public assistance. She said, in remarks directed to the White House, let them work. Now the forecast from the National Weather Service, cloudy today with some showers and thunderstorms, high 74. Mostly cloudy tonight, chance of showers and thunderstorms, low 63. Partly sunny tomorrow with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon, high 77. And Sunday should be sunny, high 75. Right now it's 65 in downtown Binghamton at 710. I'm Bob Joseph, WNBF News.
From the Galt Auto Studios, this is WNBF News Radio AM 1290. Also available at 92.1 FM. We sell the ultimate driving machine at Galt BMW.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
7:12 at WNBF. Today is Friday, August 25th, and you have made it this far. The weekend is in sight. Yes, you do have to work. If you're scheduled to work today, as I've mentioned before, some people don't take Fridays seriously. Don't feel a need to work, or at least no need to report to an office or a physical place, and I guess that's good if that's your choice. For many of us, though, we still actually report to the place, a physical place. We don't do it remotely. Remember that one week when I did the talk show remotely? Well, it proved it could be done, but I also demonstrated I prefer to be here in the studio. This is the way it should be, I believe. At any rate, the end of the work week in sight for many of us, and we wish a good day for everybody. And if for whatever reason you don't have to work today, good. Unless you want to. By the way, speaking of wanting to work, if you're looking for a new job opportunity, our job report with Steve should be coming up at about 8:45 this morning, so he may have some options if you're in a situation where you'd like to be working and don't currently have a job. Coming up this hour on First News Binghamton, we will tell you some interesting news about the Rumble Ponies, an amazing game last night in New Hampshire. Also, the story of the Yankees, an amazing night in the Bronx. And unfortunately, no real news about the Mets because they were off last night. They'll start their series against the Los Angeles Angels in Queens tonight. So sports coming up in about a minute. Also, we'll have some money news and focus on the White House. What is going on at the White House? ABC's Richard Cantu will explain. Plus tech trends later this hour, right here on News Radio. WNBF News Time, 7:14. WNBF News Time, 7:15. It's time for sports on a Friday morning, and we begin with an amazing win for the Rumble Ponies last night against the Fisher Cats. Binghamton scored 4 runs in the 9th inning to pull out a come-from-behind 7-6 win over New Hampshire. The Rumble Ponies have taken the first 3 games of the series. It was, I guess you'd have to say, quite amazing. Wish I was there. I wasn't there, and if I had known it was going to happen, I might have stayed up late to listen to the game right here on WNBF with Jacob Wilkins. Unfortunately, I decided that I needed a little bit of rest, so I didn't actually hear the game here on the radio station. But it sounds like one of those games that most people will not forget, certainly if they were there. And I'm sure Fisher Cats fans are still in disbelief because at one point the Rumble Ponies trailed 6-1 because the Fisher Cats scored 6 runs in the 5th inning. But the Ponies chipped away with a 2-out rally in the 7th, and then there were more runs, and before you know it, they were ahead going into the bottom of the 9th. Things got a little nerve-wracking, I suppose, for the Rumble Ponies because it's, the Fisher Cats did threaten in the bottom of the 9th, but in the end, Binghamton prevailed, and that was quite the win. Comeback victory for Binghamton last night over the Fisher Cats. The final was 7-6. The two teams will play each other again tonight And coverage begins at 6:50 here on WNBF.
Tommy Canely fires. And a swing and a long drive right field. Abrams has done it again. This one is long, long gone. Abrams stands and admires at home plate and is just now making his way to first base as the Nationals go back-to-back and lead 5-3.
All right. That was the call on WJFK. C.J. Abrams hit a solo home run. That gave the Nationals a 5-3 lead over the Yankees in the top of the seventh. Washington went on to win 6-5. Mets were idle last night. They'll start their series against the Los Angeles Angels tonight in Queens. It's reported that Washington Nationals pitcher Steven Strasburg has decided to retire. The 2019 World Series MVP has had his career derailed by injuries. Strasburg last pitched in June 2022. He's thrown only 528 pitches since signing a $245 million 7-year contract in December 2019. A formal announcement of his retirement is expected next month. Rory McIlroy is playing through a bad back at the FedEx Cup finale in Atlanta. McIlroy hurt his lower right back at home and has been getting treatment. He hit only 20 balls before the first round of the Tour Championship. On the front nine, he rarely finished a swing and at times appeared not to trust going after shots. He is the number 3 seed and started the tournament at 7 under par. He shot 70 and was 3 shots out of the lead after the first round. McIlroy has 2 European Tour events planned for next month and then the Ryder Cup at Marco Simone in Italy. It's the latest in sports from News Radio, WNBF News Time, 7:19. At 7:20, Money News with ABC's Jim Ryan.
The major stock indexes began Thursday in the green, but by closing time, they'd fallen into a deep sell-off. The Dow Jones lost 373 points to finish just above 34,000, 1,500 points below its close on July 31st. The S&P 500 gave up 1.35% yesterday. The Nasdaq slid nearly 2%. Mortgage rates reached a 2-decade high this week. Freddie Mac reported that the average 30-year fixed came with an interest rate of 7.23%. Those higher rates are making it harder for the housing market to pull out of its current slowdown. The Mortgage Bankers Association reports that loan applications are at their lowest since 1995. In a week of dreadful news about the state of retail, Nordstrom has beaten Wall Street's quarterly sales and earnings expectations. Despite that, the high-end department store chain is sticking to its predictions. Nordstrom expects that its revenue will fall 4 to 6% in the coming months. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Wall Street futures at the moment are on the positive side of the ledger. And NASDAQ futures are up 5 at the moment, and Dow futures are up 104. We'll have more business news throughout the day here on WNBF. And remember, for local business news you probably won't find elsewhere, check out our website, WNBF.com. Coming up today on News Radio, WNBF, our local talk show will be on the air from 10 to noon. That's correct. It'll start an hour later than its usual time. So be listening from 10 to noon for local calls, local topics, and local guests. Also later today, noon to 3, Dan Bongino, 3 to 6, Sean Hannity. And then, of course, baseball at 6:50 with Jacob Wilkins, the latest as the Rumble Ponies continue their series against the Fisher Cats in New Hampshire. WNBF News Time, 7:22.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
Focus on the White House. Who won Wednesday night's debate amongst some of the Republican presidential hopefuls?
Joe Biden actually won the night.
Biden campaign spokesman Kevin Munoz says debate participants were playing to Donald Trump's MAGA base.
Whether you were on X.com or you were on that debate stage in Milwaukee, you were talking about the most extreme, out-of-touch positions with where the American people are and where they want action and where they've been headed on the ballot box.
Denmark and the Netherlands are already training Ukrainian pilots on.
And that is your focus on the White House. We'll follow Joe Biden, not literally, but figuratively. We'll follow the president and what's going on at the White House and elsewhere today with updates as appropriate from ABC News. 7:25, good morning. You're listening to First News Binghamton. A check of our weather for today and for the weekend. Cloudy today, still wet and not quite as wild as it was early this morning. Hopefully, showers and a few thunderstorms still possible. High 73. Tonight, mostly cloudy. Chance of a few more showers and thunderstorms. Low 63. Partly sunny tomorrow with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms. High 77. And Sunday is shaping up to be a very nice day. Partly sunny. High 75. Right now, 65 in downtown Binghamton at News Radio. WNBF News Time, 7:26.
Look. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
It's 7:27 at WNBF and WNBF.com. As we've reported on air and online, an Endicott man will be heading to prison for threatening Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and his sentencing actually has received coverage in the New York Times. Just thumbing through the print edition of the Times this morning, and it reports on the case of Joseph Morelli, who is a resident of Endicott's Little Italy section. The judge, Brenda Sands of Federal District Court in Syracuse, has deferred a decision on Marjorie Taylor Greene's request that he reimburse her about $67,000 for steps she took to bolster the security at her Georgia home after those telephoned threats. Mr. Morelli is 51. He had pleaded guilty to 3 counts of transmitting interstate threatening communications in connection with voicemail messages he left on the office machine at the Congresswoman's office in March of last year. In court filings, his attorney, Gabrielle DeBella, attributed his crimes to mental illness and to the Congresswoman's own violent rhetoric. She's been criticized for using inflammatory language and for, among other things, liking social media posts before her election that endorsed the execution of top Democratic politicians. So it's a little bit more background on that story that we've been reporting right here at News Radio. WNBF News Time, 7:29.
WNBF Binghamton.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF. Here's Bob Joseph.
Good morning. It's 64 in downtown Binghamton. It's 7:30. The forecast, cloudy today with showers and thunderstorms, high 74. The first mugshot of a former U.S. President, Donald Trump, glowering at the camera at Fulton County Jail, where he turned himself in to face charges he conspired to overturn the results of the 2020 election in Georgia. ABC's Aaron Katersky has more from Atlanta.
Really believe this is a very sad day for America. This should never happen.
Trump arrived in Atlanta on his private plane, waving and giving thumbs up on his way to surrender for the 4th time this year. Unlike the prior 3, this time Trump was booked at a jail where he was fingerprinted and photographed. His height and weight provided in advance to speed things along. Trump was in and out in less than half an hour, released on a $200,000 bond. He put up 10% with the help of a local bail bondsman.
Get ready for a new booster rollout. Within weeks, the public will get access to the latest COVID vaccine booster.
U.S. health officials told reporters this week to expect the updated COVID booster to be ready by the middle of next month. Manufacturers updated the formula to account for new strains of the virus, and officials say the shots will be needed to shore up immunity that's waned over time. The big question, of course, is will people actually line up to get the shot? Only 56 million Americans, about 17% of the population, have received an updated booster so far. Ann Flaherty, ABC News, Washington.
WNBF News Time, 7:32. Police say a man fleeing an NYPD drug bust crashed his motorcycle and died after a police sergeant threw a cooler at him in an effort to stop him. Well, it worked. He stopped. And then he died. The sergeant has been suspended without pay pending an investigation into the man's death in the Bronx. Surveillance video shows the motorcycle rider driving on a sidewalk toward some people. Video then shows one of the persons picking up a red cooler and throwing it at the head of the motorcyclist before he loses control and is thrown toward a tree. Authorities say the man had fled as a plainclothes narcotics unit tried to arrest him on suspicion of selling drugs. As we've reported, an Endicott man who was taken into custody by the FBI in a pre-dawn raid at his Northside residence on St. Patrick's Day last year will be heading to prison for threatening Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. 51-year-old Joseph Morelli has been sentenced in Syracuse federal court to serve 3 months in prison for telephone threats he made to Greene's office in Washington. FBI agents led a huge contingent of heavily armed law enforcement officers who surrendered Morelli's Oak Hill Avenue apartment house early on the morning of March 17, 2022. Authorities say Morelli had been accused of transmitting threatening interstate communications. According to an affidavit, Morelli left 7 threatening voicemail messages for Taylor Greene at her Washington congressional office. Calls were said to have been made from a phone in his apartment. In one message, Morelli is alleged to have identified himself and provided his phone number before saying, "You've got a big bleeping mouth, and I'm going to show you what violence is really about." In the message, the caller was recorded saying he could pay someone $500 to take a baseball bat and crack your skull. He later said in that call, "You are going to get bleeping physically hurt." Chief Federal Judge Brenda Sands sentenced Morelli. He was ordered to serve a 3-year term of supervised release when he completes his prison term. Morelli has been directed to surrender to prison October 2nd. After he entered his guilty plea earlier this year, prosecutors said he could face a 5-year prison term and a fine of $250,000. WNBF News Time, 7:34. Press and Sun Bulletin readers who like saving money by using the newspaper's digital platform are going to be shelling out more starting in a couple of weeks. The Binghamton Gannett outlet advising Press Connect subscribers who've been paying $12.99 a month at their rate will go up by 53%, an increase to $19.99 a month. The subject line in the email that was sent to customers made no mention of the big price hike. It simply read, "Your digital subscription update." One longtime Press and Sun Bulletin reader who quit receiving the print edition of the paper because it lacked timely news content said he was shocked by the 53% increase. Even with the new monthly fee, though, the digital option will provide significant savings over the current cost of the home-delivered print edition, which is now printed in New Jersey. Some of those customers are paying more than $43 a month. Single copies of the Press and Sun Bulletin have been increased dramatically in recent years. The Sunday print paper now costs $4.50, and the daily paper is $3.50. The price increase for digital subscribers should come as no surprise because earlier this month, Gannett CEO Mike Reed told investors that the company's current focus is on digital revenue growth and strengthening our balance sheet. He said Gannett has a heightened focus on profitability and the amount of revenue it can obtain per subscriber. WNBF News Time, 7:36. Now the forecast from the National Weather Service. Cloudy today, showers likely, maybe a thunderstorm. High 74. Mostly cloudy tonight with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms. Low 63. Partly sunny tomorrow. Slight chance of showers and thunderstorms. High 77. They're saving the nice weekend weather for Sunday. Mostly sunny, high 75. Right now, 65 in downtown Binghamton. I'm Bob Joseph, WNBF News.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
Good morning. It's 7:38 on this Friday morning with WNBF's First News Binghamton. I'm Bob Joseph, serving you from our studio in beautiful downtown Binghamton, the Parlor City. Imagine this. Think about this. Everything is going well. Close your eyes and remember what you were doing maybe around this time yesterday morning. Everything is fine. Get set for another busy day of fun and frolic, or maybe just going to work. So you're taking a shower in your house, minding your own business, and then blam, the loudest crash you've ever heard. That's what happened to a woman near Syracuse. She wrapped a towel around herself. She was in the shower. So a car crashed in her house while she's in the shower yesterday morning. So she hears the crash, of course, gets out of the shower, of course, wraps a towel around herself and walks into the living room. And in the corner where her mom keeps her plants, there is now a big hole. This is according to Riley Kirk, Syracuse.com, Syracuse newspaper, Post-Standard. At first, Taylor Gwilt thought the basement ceiling had collapsed. Her dad thought lightning hit the house. Well, they were both wrong. It turns out it was a Volkswagen sedan that went off the street, crossed the front lawn, and slammed into the house on Ridgewood Drive. The car narrowly missed the American flag on the front lawn. Looking at the picture, the flag perfectly intact. The house, not so much. Gwilt still just wearing a towel, called 911. Her dad went outside. The guy in the car told him fell asleep at the wheel. Fire department, police, an ambulance were sent to the house. According to the dispatches from the 911 center, dispatchers told responders the car was under the house. The floor that serves as the basement ceiling is visible from the outside. It was a real mess. And that's how Taylor Gwilt's day started in Syracuse about 24 hours ago. Everything going well, getting set for just another lazy, hazy, crazy day of summer. And then the guy apparently fell asleep. And his Volkswagen crashed into the house. 7:41 at WNBF, WNBF.com. Coming up on First News Binghamton on this Friday morning, we'll have a look at sports. We also will have money news, and in about 12 minutes, tech trends from ABC and Mike Dubosky. It's all for you. News Radio, WNBF on air at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and online at WNBF.com.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
7:43. Everybody seems to be talking about Donald Trump being booked at Fulton County Jail and getting fingerprinted and photographed. After he was booked at the jail in Atlanta, he had some brief remarks for America.
Thank you very much for being here. I really believe this is a very sad day for America. This should never happen. If you challenge an election, you should be able to challenge an election. I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election, and I should have every right to do that. As you know, you have many people that you've been watching over the years do the same thing, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Stacey Abrams or many others. When you have that great freedom to challenge, you have to be able to, otherwise you're going to have very dishonest elections. What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. And everybody knows it. I've never had such support. And that goes with the other ones, too. What they're doing is election interference. They're trying to interfere with an election. There's never been anything like it in our country before. This is their way of campaigning. And this is one instance, but you have three other instances. It's election interference. So I want to thank you for being here. We did nothing wrong at all, and we have every right, every single right, to challenge an election that we think is dishonest, that we think it's very dishonest. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.
Would you pardon yourself? President Trump, are you ready to go to trial?
How is this different from the previous investigation, sir?
And then he was off, flying away to his golf course in New Jersey. Donald Trump speaking with the assembled journalist after his booking at Fulton County Jail. WNBF News Time, 7:45. Sports time on First News Binghamton. And we can turn our attention to the Yankees. The Yankees, who did have a one-game winning streak going. Unfortunately, the winning streak just didn't last. We were cautiously optimistic, but sadly, the Washington Nationals did not allow the Yankees to win a second game in the Bronx.
Tommy Kahnle fires. And a swing and a long drive right field. Abrams has done it again. This one is long, long gone. Abrams stands and admires at home plate and is just now making his way to first base as the Nationals go back-to-back and lead 5-3.
That was the call on WJFK as C.J. Abrams hit a solo home run to give the Nationals a 5-3 lead over New York in the top of the seventh. Washington went on to win 6-5. Giancarlo Stanton had his first four-hit game since May 4th, 2021. He homered in the eighth off Jordan Weems and hit an RBI single off Kyle Finnegan in the ninth before Harrison Bader, batting in the rain, hit a game-ending flyout to a stumbling call on the center field warning track. Stumbling Alex call. Anyway, final was 6-5 for the Washington Nationals over the Yankees. An amazing come-from-behind victory for the Binghamton Rumble Ponies in Manchester, New Hampshire. Binghamton scored 4 runs in the ninth inning to pull out a come-from-behind 7-6 win over the Fisher Cats. The Rumble Ponies have now taken the first 3 games of their series, which will continue tonight, and coverage begins at 6:50 right here on WNBF with Jacob Wilkins. The president of the Spanish Soccer Federation has refused to quit despite an uproar for kissing a player on the lips without her consent after the Women's World Cup final. Luis Rubiales has told an emergency General Assembly of the Federation in Madrid, "I won't resign." Rubiales kissed Jenny Hermoso on the lips during the awards ceremony after Spain beat England in Australia. Several Spanish media outlets had reported that he was planning to step down. He instead said the kiss was mutual and with the consent of Hermoso. For her part, she had said in a video after the kiss last Sunday, "I didn't like it, but what can I do?" So he says he's not going anywhere. Eric Spoelstra has never lived in the Philippines, so returning as an assistant coach for USA Basketball at the World Cup this summer is not technically a homecoming for the Miami Heat coach. He's not from the Philippines. He wasn't born there. None of that seems to matter for this World Cup in Manila, halfway around the world from where he lives. Spoelstra is right at home. And returning just for a moment to baseball, the Washington Nationals pitcher Steven Strasburg has decided to retire. The 2019 World Series MVP has had his career derailed by injuries. He last pitched in June 2022. He's thrown only 528 pitches since he signed a $245 million 7-year contract in December 2019. A formal announcement of his retirement is expected next month. WNBF News Time, 7:49.
WNBF.
7:50 at WNBF. Some business news. Asian shares are mostly falling today, discouraged by a Wall Street slump that followed a blowout profit report from NVIDIA and mixed reports on the U.S. economy. At the moment, things are looking somewhat positive for U.S. shares, with Wall Street trading starting in about an hour and a half. Dow futures are up 100, and NASDAQ futures are up by 9. The Dutch brewer Heineken has finally completed its withdrawal from Russia 18 months after Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The company today announced the sale of its business in Russia for just €1. That's right, €1 for the entire Heineken business in Russia. The company said it will incur a loss of €300 million. That's $325 million for the sale of its Russian operations to the Ernest Group. Heineken had faced criticism for the slow pace of its exit in the wake of the outbreak of the Ukraine war, but insisted it was seeking to look after its local employees in Russia. Business these days in Jackson Hole, Wyoming is still good, just not as robust as it was after the U.S. economy roared out of the pandemic recession. As the Federal Reserve prepares to hold its annual economic conference there, its policymakers are trying to guide the nation's economy towards something akin to what's going on in Jackson Hole. They've jacked up their key interest rate to a 22-year high to try to slow growth and bring inflation down to their 2% target. Even as they do so, the Fed's policymakers hope to avoid tipping the economy into a recession. Of course, that's a difficult achievement that economists call a soft landing. We'll see if they can manage that. It's the latest business news on your Friday morning from News Radio. WNBF News Time, 7:53. Now some tech trends with Mike Dubosky from ABC.
From ABC News Tech Trends, when you think of online retailers, you probably think of Amazon, but there's a Chinese platform that's been attracting those looking for a good deal. Thomas Germain is a senior reporter for Gizmodo. He says for his online shopping, he frequents AliExpress.
It is one of the weirdest and most, I think, delightful places on the internet.
AliExpress is the consumer-facing version of Alibaba, a Chinese wholesaler, which Germain says means things are
dirt cheap. I'm talking like pennies on the dollar for what you'd pay here in the United States.
Even if what you're looking for is a little out there.
You can buy a hyper-realistic fake tongue or a t-shirt that says, I heart microplastics. That's been in my cart for a while.
But even for normal items,
can find the exact same stuff. Often it's the same photo for 25% of what people are asking for.
With Tech Trends, I'm Mike Dubosky, ABC News.
I was listening and laughing. I'll probably have to check that out. It's whatever they were talking about sounded funny. But maybe I wasn't paying strict attention. Maybe because I was trying to multitask. Maybe it wasn't meant to be funny. Maybe it was meant to be entertaining. Anyway, we've got tech trends for you weekday mornings right here on WNBF. And also, if you like tech news, we have plenty of tech news with Kim Commando and her tech updates. We'll hear from Kim Commando in a little less than an hour. She'll be talking about what Zoom has decided to do with its own workers. Will they be Zooming themselves, or will they have to go back to the office and stop phoning it in? Kim Commando will tell us about that around 8:53 on this Friday morning. Bob Joseph with you on First News Binghamton. I'm filling in for Don Morgan, who is off today. Just for your planning purposes, coming up, our live local talk show today will be on from 10 to noon. So the talk show will start 1 hour later than normal. Don't worry, we'll be here with local calls, local topics, local guests. So it should be a very interesting program to wrap up the week. Then today from noon to 3, Dan Bongino, and from 3 to 6, Sean Hannity. Lots of talk every day on News Radio. WNBF News Time, 7:56.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
7:57, ABC News coming up in less than 3 minutes. If you're a town justice in New York State, should you be posting expletive-laden messages on Facebook? Apparently not. According to the Albany Times-Union, the state's watchdog panel for judges has just censured a town justice in Western New York for expletive-laced remarks that she put on Facebook, including a post where she voiced her appreciation for the derriere of a Marine ambling down a street in Batavia. Jennifer Nunnery is a justice in the town of Darien. She used profane, demeaning, and otherwise inappropriate language, according to the state's Commission on Judicial Conduct. So they say you shouldn't do that, especially if you're a town justice. WNBF News Time, 7:58.
Looking for a new way to give back to your community, learn new skills, and make a real difference? Consider volunteering with your local fire department. The majority of U.S. firefighters and emergency responders are volunteers, answering the call when their community needs them. Be part of a dedicated team of volunteers who step up and protect their community from all types of hazards. You can be the difference. There's no typical firefighter. Anyone can volunteer to serve their community. Volunteering as a first responder is really about having the heart and drive to make a difference where it's needed most. Aside from helping your community and being there for those in need, being a member of the Volunteer Fire Service provides many benefits, including an opportunity to learn new skills and join a family that will serve with you, always have your back, and train you to be the best version of yourself. Your community needs you. Will you answer the call? Learn more and find a local volunteer opportunity at makemeafirefighter.org. That's makemeafirefighter.org.
This is News Radio 1290 AM, WNBF Binghamton. Now on 92.1 FM, W221 EJ Binghamton, a Town Square media station.